Hi, this is part 2 of our positioning lecture, and I want to start by talking about the two traps. They're related. The first trap, as we talked about earlier, is selfishness, is not having empathy. It's all this nonsense about points of differentiation, as if I care about your points of differentiation. I don't. And the second trap is the easy to follow playbook. Fill in the blanks. We are the blank point of differentiation who does that. It's the clever mission statement, the committee all working together to glibly condense what you stand for into some sort of mantra. I have no interest in that, and the customer has no interest in that. So let's talk about the XY method and how you can use it to understand how you can tell a story to people who want to hear it. We begin by realizing that we have to treat different people differently. Everyone is not the same. Some people drink Coke, some people drink Pepsi, some people drink turmeric ginger from Rebel. Some people want to have kombucha, and some people are an RC Cola kind of person. Different people want different things. Now you can make it your quest to try to persuade people that they are wrong, that they want something else. And if you're on the side of goodness, I hope that you succeed at that. But for most of us, when we are doing marketing, we don't have enough leverage and enough time and enough money to change people and get them to admit that they were wrong about what they wanted. What we do have the opportunity to do is treat different people differently. So how do we do it? We make a list of all the things someone might want, and then we pick two of them. So I'm going to pick an example that most of us have experience with, which is air travel. Here's the thing that most people want from air travel. They want to get to where they are going. If you don't fly to Detroit, and I am going to Detroit, I am almost certainly not going to consider flying with you. Another thing that we want is safety. Mostly, though, airlines checked that box. The FAA made sure that they weren't going to crash out of the sky. And if we have satisfied what we want and we can't tell the difference, the thing we always want is cheaper. So now you have the marketing strategy for just about every airline. We go to where you want to go, and we are the cheapest. Well, you don't have to be a mathematician to do that math and realize that leads to a race to the bottom, because everyone, once you've paid for the plane, can get a little bit cheaper. So a bunch of years ago, American Airlines invented frequent flyer miles. And the idea there was simple. They could go in early. They could bribe the business traveler and say, you should fly with American because we're going where you want to go. We're as safe as everybody else. And you get a kickback. And once you have a few points from us, even if the other guys start offering points, you'll have enough points with us that you won't want to walk away. So there we have it. It's a version of cheaper, and it's a version of the fear of loss. And that was the airline business for a really long time. And now along comes someone, David Needleman, who wants to start an airline, JetBlue. The playbook would say, if you don't understand positioning, the playbook would say, fly to as many cities as you can, as cheap as you can, charge just a little bit less than the other guy. And once you get some momentum, start a frequent flyer program that has a lot of rewards, which is another version of being cheaper than the other guy. That's not what he did. What he did was he went down the list and he said, you know what some people want? Some people want to be treated like a human being. Some people want to have fun. Some people want to feel like they're getting something for their money. So working with my friend Amy Curtis McIntyre, what they did was they came up with two axes. And I'm going to draw them for you here because I'm not good at drawing, but I am good at this. So one axis, up and down, right here, you see that? Yeah. Is it going where I want to go? And another axis, side to side, is are they nice to me? Do I get free snacks? Will I be treated like a human? Do they have a sense of humor? So I'm going to put a smiling face over here and a sad face over here. So what we see is that an airline that has decided it's a flying bus company that needs to keep its costs and prices down because they're the same as every other airline, and that needs to put the rest of the money into frequent flyer things, they're all over here, right? So I'm going to draw the logos up in this corner, whoop, over there. Those logos show you Delta, American, United, everybody. And some of these people were getting hurt on some routes by Southwest because they were even cheaper, right? So here's the challenge. What should JetBlue do? Well, JetBlue says, you know what we're going to do? We might not go where you want to go every time, but on the times we do go there, we're going to be over here. And so what would happen is if you got on a JetBlue flight and asked for a bag of potato chips, blue potato chips, sense of humor, they'd give you 2. That when Amy was building the airline, one of the ideas she had was having a dress code. That when you get on the airline, there are going to be people wearing silly outfits. Because in fact, one thing she could have done, almost did, was give the best dressed person on the plane a free ticket on the next flight, sense of humor. So what JetBlue was able to do was be cheap enough, doesn't have to be the cheapest, cheap enough to get my attention, and then find a spot on the axis so that when I thought about airlines, this is the key lesson, there was a hook on the wall to hang the coat of JetBlue. That in our brains we have hooks. And there is a hook for, I like those guys. That hook had not been taken in the airline business. Now, it's a fragile hook because over time, as JetBlue got bigger and went public and all that other nonsense, they stopped being people we like as much. But for a long time, you can build a business on that hook when everyone else is over there. But that's not the only hook. That we can look at these axes and do it for lots of things. So let's say the thing I look for in a bank is there a branch near me? That's one of the things I could put on the list. If there's a tie among banks, then I say, who's offering me a better interest rate? If there's a tie among that, I say, who's giving me a toaster, or who has a bank a friend goes to, or what ads have I seen a lot of? So again, what we see is all the banks fighting the same game. So if you want to start a bank, maybe what you do is you start a bank that has no branches at all. Therefore, what you've done is eliminated people who aren't willing to go to a bank that doesn't have a branch near them. But you've set yourself up to be all the way over here for people who don't have that need. Those people, maybe what they care about is it's super simple, it's super fast, it pays me all sorts of prizes and money and everything else. Or maybe they just take the money they save on branches and run a ton of ads because I have a hook in my brain for that, a famous bank. I want to do business with a bank that tickles me in some way. The point here is that the exercise we need to do is make a list of all of the things somebody might look for. Then we draw an axis for 2 of those things. One of those things this way and one of those things this way. And then, if we've done our job right, we're going to discover that almost all the competition is in one of these quadrants right here, and we can be in a different quadrant all by ourselves. And if we can be in a quadrant all by ourselves, then we get a chance to have people remember us, to understand us, to believe in what we are trying to do. We stand for something. So if I think about the computer business in 1984, 85, this was shortly after IBM came out with the PC. And they were in the business of licensing. They hadn't started yet, but they were about to license the PC to Dell and Compaq and Acer and hundreds of other companies. So Microsoft was the operating system, and you could pick any PC you wanted as long as it was black, right? If you wanted to get in the computer business then, the thoughtful way to do it, if you didn't understand positioning, was to out Dell, was to out Acer, was to say, we're just like those guys, except we're a little faster or a little cheaper. Fast and cheap were the 2 axes, right? If you wanted a fast and cheap computer, you'd say, what's the fastest? What's the cheapest? I'll take that one. But the thing is, everyone was fighting for fast and cheap. So Steve Jobs came along in 84. It took till 88 till they got it right. And they said, you know what the Mac is? It's not fast. And it's not cheap. We're going to draw different axes. And the axes are, let's say, fashionable and simple. If you want a computer that's fashionable and simple, there is only one brand up here. Everybody else is over here fighting to be fast and cheap. When you draw your axes, you have a shot. Now, you have to tell the truth. You have to build something that matches the axis. So there are restaurants in New York City who say, this place is slow and expensive. And if you're looking for fast and cheap, go over there. But when we deliver something that is slow and expensive, we're going to give you a story about it that makes it worth telling your friends. Or just up the street, a restaurant called Carmine says, we specialize in serving you more garlic than anybody else and larger portions than anybody else. So if those two things are axes that appeal to you, everybody else is over here. They're stingy, they're reasonable food, it's not going to make you smell tomorrow morning, and it's a restaurant. But if you want Carmine's, they're in a category unto themselves. So that's the project. When we think about positioning, we're doing a service for the customer. They have hooks in their head. They want to hang something on that hook. They have needs that have been ignored by everyone who's rushing to be part of the crowd. That when we do a good job of positioning ourselves, we're doing the opposite. We're going away from the crowd on purpose, on axes that have not yet been explored. This takes guts, but I think you have it in you. So, you've already guessed what I need from you. What's your position? Not what do you hope that people will imagine about you, but what are you committed to on behalf of those people? So when they hear what you do, some of them will say, that's exactly what I've been waiting for. Tell me more about it.